So one of the things I want to do and show you before we kind of move on to working on the midground and foreground in the water is how to go back here. This is a little too vivid, stark. I don't know. It stands out a little too much, I guess, basically. I'm going to make a new layer and control click on that layer so that I'm still up here. And then grab some of these colors here to kind of push this back a little bit. So I've got the airbrush turned down to about 28% and just going to lightly go over this to kind of push it back a little bit. And it's going to kind of dull some of the textures. All of a sudden. Put that there, and then some of this lighter here. And then bring it down a little bit and play around with the opacity. But it kind of ties some of it together and at the same time pushes it back into the background a little bit. Put too much on because I'm getting a lot of lag. This. These are just purples that I selected from the mountain here itself. Maybe grab just a little bit more of a blue. All right, see how that really pushes that back? Kind of dulls it down a little bit and kind of blends it all together. Some of these trees that were looking a little wonky and stuff. Just by basically kind of glazing it. And then what you can do is you can take your eraser, if you want to, and just in certain spots where you want it to maybe pop a little bit, you can erase some of that glaze. This is kind of like if you've ever drawn on something and then scraped back to get highlights. Kind of a similar idea. You know, so get kind of where you want it to maybe pop a little bit. And then I would go to 4 on the airbrush or whatever one you're using and bring it way down. Just kind of soften that a little bit. I actually painted it. That's not what I wanted. There we go. So now that gives us a little bit of pop, but at the same time, you know, something a little more combined. Now you can also use this, like say for example we wanted to put in some highlights where the clouds maybe are breaking around it and sunlight's kind of cascading on it. You could do that as well. To switch brushes over to this knife brush and press 5. This is a really good way to kind of get that, just some dynamic lighting interest. And this is how I build up my other paintings. So like my more professional ones that I spend a lot of time on, is I do these little things like this, where I go in, I smear, I soften, and I just kind of go back and forth. There's a lot of painting it and undoing it and erasing and smearing. Not really undoing. I don't really undo much anymore. I just kind of erase or smudge. But I think that's going to give us really kind of a cool look to some of this background back there. And again, it kind of ties it all together. So I like that. I think it's nicer looking. So I'm going to just kind of bring that layer down and merge those two together. Now the same thing for the cloud layers. If I want to, I can make another layer on top. I could control click and get a hold of it. And then what I can do is I can just kind of start building in some layers of where I want to have a buildup of, different colors and stuff. So again, I can just kind of go over top of this like so. Press 4. Just kind of soften it out. Like so. And again, this is just kind of back and forth, back and forth. I think really right here what I'd like to do is, instead of this yellowish color so much, I'd like to add a little bit of this peachy color. And just soften it in there. The glaze. And again, kind of let it tie some of it together. And then I can go back, put it on 5, and just kind of erase some of it back. Spin a little here. Back to 4. Again, don't be afraid to change knives, change brushes, get that different effect. And the other thing you can do too is, like, you can turn off the natural paint or the pure pigment section and then go to like something like overlay, see what you think. I don't like that. Maybe, something like about saturation. It's okay, but play around with these. Go give yourself that permission to just kind of go in here and poke around and play around and kind of see what you like. I'm going to go back to just the regular pigment color, but I'm going to lower the opacity just like I did before. Maybe something like 95%. Like that. And then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to select like this. Just trying to blend these together. The color I'm looking for. And this is really kind of an intuitive thing, you know, find what you like that works. Get rid of what you don't like. Like, for example, I don't like that. So this is where I can Control Z it. And what I'm doing here is just kind of filling in some of the spaces and gaps that I have. And just kind of glazing it over it to see what I like and what I don't. So now right there I just erased some of it so I can spread this a little thinner to a lighter glaze. This purplish color is going to kind of help transition into these mountains, I think. Switch to 5. Pull out. Some highlights by erasing. Going back to 4. Softening. I can give that really nice wispy kind of a look. Again, depending on how soft you want it to be and what kind of look you're going for. But you can just keep glazing it back and forth and back and forth. Really get that kind of a look that you want. And then again, you can come back in, take your eraser, cut out some hot spots on the clouds. And switch over to your blending tool. Like so, and that'll really let you build up some of those cool cloud looks and stuff. And you can also use like the pencil if you want to just kind of do it on top of this layer. Go for more of your whites. Keep building it up. But you can see why on my other paintings, this is why this would take so long. Because it's literally just a matter of going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Hit 5 instead of 4. Excuse me. But see how it starts trying to pull it all together? So like with it, without it, with it, without it. But I think that's a good way to kind of start getting it kind of honed in for what you want and the look you want. And then you can come in here and go across horizontally. And that's going to give you that feel of the clouds kind of shifting off. But just keep, playing around and pushing it to where you want. Alright, so I'm going to jump down here to the sky real quick. I want to add just the touch of a little bit darker. Just kind of subtle. And kind of soften it. Something like that. That's going to get this big pop back here, and I'm going to go a little bit bluer. So we can add a little bit of the other colors in here. I'll kind of start laying the foundation for the water, and then switch to something like your smooth knife on 4, and then just kind of pull straight down. And then lightly go back and forth. And then you can come back. And again, going vertical. Just kind of soften it in. Like, not the finished water, but it kind of lays that foundation. I know we're doing it on the sky layer, not the water layer, but at this point it really doesn't matter. Alright, so see how it's starting to come together as you just kind of work your way around. And the key is that, you know, just take your time, work around, figure out how much you want to have it be, you know, impressionistic versus realistic. You know, find that happy spot between it and go with what makes you happy. Like the song says, if it makes you happy, it can't be that bad, right? Why the hell are you so sad? Now let's work on our grass. Got all this here. So I want to have this be more evened out, like short grass. So I think I'm going to switch to like the grainy knife. I go over it. Forth a little bit. So that's going to start building up some texture, but it's not going to give it grass blades, you know. Touches of blue here and there. So again, just trying to push and pull some of this. Blend some of the colors. A little texture here and there. So that I get some interesting look to it all. Now I'm going to go over here and grab the bush brush. Throw a few of these in here and there. Just to add a little interest. Smudge it back a little bit. There we go. Kind of like that. Now let's come to this foreground grass right here. And I want to go with maybe the old brush. Kind of smear it in, going a little vertical. Like that. Grab some of this color from back here and just kind of drop it in here and there. And then again, 4. Just laying the foundation here. This is still the underpainting. Alright, let's switch over to let's go over to the grainy knife. And much like an onion or an ogre, we're just building layers. Just a few layers. Again, this is going to be how real, how impressionistic do you want it to be? Okay. This line. Okay, so that's given us some neat colors and kind of a blend. Let's do something like that. Got this, oops, that's the wrong one. Got different stencils that we can use. Give us that look that we're wanting. key to this is just to kind of keep moving the stencil around, and you can go to here and remove the lock ratio and then just kind of lay it in here and there. Then see how that kind of starts pulling it together, and then from there you can go to something like your pencil and grab some of these colors and then start kind of throwing in the random stuff. So it's not so uniform, not so stencil, but you've laid the foundation now for what you need to give you that look. We'll have to put another layer here to kind of hide this rock a little bit. Soften it down into here. So let me save this and we'll go to the next stage.